So for this hospital story, this is my first ever code blue. This is the first ever serious, really serious situation where someone might die in the hospital. And I thought this is a pretty cool story to share, to talk about. So here's what happened. This is my first ever code blue. So if you don't know what a code blue is, it's kind of, maybe it's just an American thing. It might vary by hospitals. I'm not really sure. But the first code blue, I guess the way you can think about it is a code blue is someone's having a heart attack, right? Which is a pretty big deal. So let me set kind of the baseline for this first story. So it's my first week on my internal medicine rotation. So for internal medicine, these are the doctors that kind of go around the hospital. These are the doctors that you think about as hospitalists, or the doctors that go around in the hospital. They're kind of in charge of taking care of patients with all their things together. So you might have a gastroenterologist or a pulmonologist that are taking care of your lungs and your GI system, but the internal medicine doctor is the kind of doctor that brings all of this together and makes sure like the patient is receiving kind of the basic care and coordinating it all together. So the way my rotation works is you're assigned certain patients. So when I go to the hospital now, they give me 2, 3, or 4 patients that I'm going to follow for the next couple of days while they're in the hospital. And because internal medicine, you have a lot of patients, you're on a team. So on the team is usually a senior resident. So this is like a second or third year. So this is someone who's more experienced. And then you also have an intern, which is their first year in the hospital. And then you have the attending physician, or the supervising physician. And he is the one who's responsible. He's the one who makes the decisions kind of about the patient, about medicines, and kind of what interventions to do and all that kind of stuff. So, okay, I'm in the hospital and I'm part of this team. It's day number 2 in the hospital. It's a team of 5 people. So there's the third-year medical student, me. There's a 4th-year medical student. There's the intern, who's the first-year resident. That's a doctor, but it's their first year there. There's the senior resident, which might be a 2nd or 3rd year. So they're the more experienced resident, also a doctor. And then there's the attending physician, or the supervising physician. This is the person that's making all the decisions. So I'm at the bottom of this ladder, right? I'm at the very bottom of this ladder. So every week you're assigned different patients. So you get assigned maybe 2, 3, or 4 patients. And then when one leaves, you pick up another patient. And the way it works is you follow these patients through their time in the hospital, and you'll be in charge of so for me as a medical student, I'm not actually going to be the one prescribing the drugs or anything like that, but I'll still present to the team and say what drugs I would prescribe kind of as like a learning point. Okay, so basis done. So again, it's week 1. Day number 2, I have 3 or 4 patients, and I'm following them. So there's this 80-something-year-old lady, and she had a bit of respiratory distress, so it was a little bit tough for her to breathe, and I'm the person following this person for the day. Of course, the rest of the team is taking care of her as well, but she's the patient that I was assigned as a third-year student. So what you have to do is you go and see these patients in the morning when they first wake up, and you kind of say, okay, how are they doing? You have to go through the whole thing, right? You just say any changes overnight. You have to check on their vital signs. You have to listen to their heart. You have to listen to their lungs. You have to press on their belly. Maybe you look in their eyes. Maybe they have something neurologically going on, right? So you have to check their reflexes, or see if they can push against your hand with their hands, or push against your hands with their legs. Maybe you shine a light in their eyes. There's all kinds of different things you want to do when you're checking on people, right? Depending on what's going on with them. So I checked on this lady in the morning, and her backstory it's complicated, but her lungs were kind of messed up. So her lungs were kind of messed up, so it was harder and harder for her to breathe. And I went in there, and there's this thing that goes onto your finger that tells about your oxygen saturation rate, and her oxygen saturation rate was like 94, 93%, which isn't perfect, but it's nothing awful. And she had a little bit of abdominal kind of retraction, so her abdomen was helping her breathe a little bit, so she was struggling a little bit to breathe, right? But she wasn't struggling that much. She had some oxygen on and everything like that. And I remember I went back and I talked to someone, and I was like, listen, I don't know about this lady. She looks kind of maybe a little bit sick. Not great, not awful, but maybe a little bit sick. So then one of the senior residents was like, okay, I'll go check on this lady. So she went to check on this lady. And she also said, okay, maybe things aren't great. Let's run a few tests. Let's do X, Y, and Z, and we'll come back to it. So everyone is sitting together kind of in the resident room. We're kind of working on our computers, typing stuff about the patient and stuff like that, ordering different drugs these people should have, all that kind of good stuff. And then we get kind of over the loudspeaker of the hospital, we get rapid response team. I'm going to make up a room number, but rapid response team room 176. So I was thinking for a second, okay, wait a second. I have my sheet of people, 1, 4, 5. That's the lady I just saw. Is room 176. So rapid response team means there's something going on, and there's a team of people that are going to rush to this person to see if there's some intervention that needs to be made right away. Okay, so we start walking to this patient's room, right? The senior resident and I, because we're like, okay, something's going on with this person. So as we're walking to see this person, right, we hear another, and every time they say something over the loudspeaker, they say it 3 times. So they say, rapid response team, rapid response team, room 173, rapid response team, room 173, rapid response team, 173. So we're walking, we hear that. The next thing we hear code blue, room 173, code blue, room 173, code blue, room 173. So I'm kind of like, I don't really know what's going on. I'm going to walk here too. But then I just look to my side, and the resident and the attending physician are just sprinting. They're just running down the hall. So I'm like, okay, I'm just going to follow them because it's something important going on, right? I'm going to run with them. And I knew what a code blue was, but I didn't know like how fast and crazy things happen. So I'm running with them down the hallway. I have no idea where I'm going in the hospital. I'm just trying to find this freaking room with this person who's dying, right? So we run into this room. There's already a bunch of people. These rooms are not that big, and there's already just there's like 15, 16 people in this room. There's respiratory therapists, there's nurses, there's med students, there's doctors on other teams, like from the surgery team, and things just start happening in this room. I don't know what's going on, but things start happening in this room. There's someone pounding on this lady's chest. There's someone trying to put something down her throat. There's a whole cart outside where there's just like different drugs being given because there's a pharmacist outside with like a crash cart. And in this crash cart, I guess they're pulling different drugs from this crash cart to give to this lady because she's not in good shape. And she was not in good shape. She had something called PEA, which is pulseless electrical activity. So she still had electric stuff going on in her heart, but her heart wasn't beating at all. So someone was giving her CPR, pounding on her chest to go. And I was just kind of standing there like, I have no idea what's going on. Everything's really scary. What do I do? So I'm just trying to get the least in everyone's way as possible. So I'm standing there. This is our team, right? This is our team. This is our patient. And then now at this point, it's about 5 minutes later of pushing on the chest, injecting stuff in her arms. They call on the overhead surgery stat to this room. They call on the overhead, what did they say? Anesthesia stat to this room because we need to get someone to like intubate her and do all this kind of other crazy stuff. So all these people are rushing in, and this is the first time this has ever happened to me. And I remember I was standing there kind of in a daze, 5 or 6 minutes in, and I guess it gets kind of tiring when you're like pounding on someone's chest a lot because it's a full body activity, right? And someone says to the attending physician who's kind of running the code, right? The attending physician is standing at the head of the bed saying, do this, give epinephrine, start doing these pressures, switch out people. And so the lady who was a nurse who was giving compressions on the top was like, I'm getting tired, I need to switch. And the attending physician is like, okay, who's a med student here? And then she's like, Zach. He's like, Zach, go get ready to do compression. So I was like, okay, I'm CPR trained. I think I know what I'm going to do. So I literally kneel on this bed because it was too high up for me to just stand on it sideways. So I'm kneeling on this bed, and I just, I lock my arms and I put like my hands like this. And then you just like, you're meant to do it with your body and not kind of your arms because your arms will get tired. And also you're meant to go to a certain depth and you're meant to do it pretty fast. So I start doing this, and I'm doing this for about 30 seconds and I start to get really tired. Like it's just, I don't know. It was just, maybe it was the moment, maybe it was whatever, but I start to get really, really tired in the first 30 seconds. And I'm like, wait a second, there's about 50 people around now, like 50 people around at this point. And I just have to be the one that's like pressing on this lady's chest. They'll tell me to stop because they need to, put something in her chest or inject something or give her breaths or something like that. And then I'll keep going, but it's crazy. And then I think it's like minute 2 when I'm like, I'm really tired. So I think I look up to one of the residents who is my friends, and he's like, okay, we're going to need someone to switch out. And I think I actually only made it pressing on her chest for maybe 3 minutes. I think I made it for 3 minutes 3 minutes. And then I had to stop. I changed out. They pulled me out. I went to the side and I just was watching, and I was so tired. It's crazy because you think you could do this forever, but really it's really tiring. Probably about 5 minutes after I finished pressing on this lady's chest, something happened, and like her heartbeat came back. Like she was intubated and her heartbeat came back, and then she was gonna get like transferred to the ICU, and kind of things started to settle down. But it was crazy. It wasn't like this moment of like happiness and joy. It was kind of like everyone was just tired out, and everyone was like, what just happened? Kind of debriefing. I realized, so there were like there were probably actually like 20 or 30 people in the room, but there was just a line of people outside the room, kind of nursing students, medical students, residents, doctors from other teams, just like there waiting to help out and waiting to see like what goes on. It was really cool to actually see this is the amount of people that go into kind of saving a person's life in this kind of crazy situation. But yeah, it was definitely an intense day, a cool day, an interesting day, a scary day, and a slightly sad day, but something that I probably will never forget. But if you made it to the end of this video, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you on the next one.